Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad were super popular when we were getting started 2 decades ago, right?
Yeah.
But are those principles still valid now?
Today we're going to talk about some of the key concepts in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad and whether they're old news or timeless wisdom.
Hey, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you get notified every time we drop one of our weekly videos.
Robert Kiyosaki self-published the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in 1997. But why did he self-publish it? Basically, no publishers would publish the book. But why is that? The concepts that Robert Kiyosaki talks about in this book literally go against everything society teaches us and how we should operate our life.
Go to school, study hard, get good grades, go to college, buy a house, all the things. That's what we're taught. And he has different concepts, so everybody thought he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
So he had the audacity to make claims such as,
the rich don't work for money.
savers are losers.
And your home, personal residence, is not an asset. What? People thought he was nuts. Okay, so let's break down some of these concepts so we can identify, is he onto something or is he just batshit crazy? Point number 1, the rich don't work for money. What does that even mean? Like, what does that mean to you? Because how do you not work for money, right? So we agree with this statement, but we want to put some context behind it. So when you think about it, you have to have some money in order to make it work for you, right? I had to go to work, yes, I had to work for money, but at some point, everybody has to start that off working for money. At some point, I had to start saving that money, collecting it, and then buying an asset. So that's what the rich do. They focus on the asset column of their balance sheet, whereas people who go to jobs to work for money focus on the income, right? So you might find some people are saying, oh God, I can't wait to get a raise, or I need a raise, or they're trying to figure out how to bring more money in, but they're not focused on how to use that money to buy an asset that produces money for them. Right?
I used to say that all the time.
All the time.
I just want a raise.
Yeah. How much more overtime can I work?
Yeah, like how can I make more money?
If I make more money, then I'm gonna pay more taxes, so what's the point? That's also something that I said as I got promoted, and once I hit 6 figures in corporate America, I was like, holy crap. Why did I work so hard to get here? Because now they're taking all of it, right?
Exactly.
It's just the way that it is. We are taught that way in society. So his drastic concept of the rich have money work for them, you have to break that down into terms where when you're first getting started, that means you have to take money that you're earning, segment it, like here's the money I need to live on, here's the money I can just blow, here's the money I'm going to invest. And when you invest, we're talking about investing in an asset. And he's basically saying, make compound interest work for you. And I mean, do we agree with that?
100%, 100%.
10 million percent. But here's what we're saying is, like, you want to get into a situation where your money is working while you sleep. Yeah. That's the best position to be in, because you're not waking up at the first of the month figuring out how to pay rent. No, you got an asset that does that for you.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think when Robert says the rich don't work for money, what he's talking about, like, fast forward to the point where when you are rich, nobody gets rich working at a job.
Right.
That there's no job that you can have that has any amount of income that would make you rich, because as soon as you stop working, all the income goes away. All right, the next concept we're going to talk about that Robert Kiyosaki brings up in his book, savers are losers. Okay, so what does that mean, savers are losers? Does that mean we shouldn't save money? Like, look, if your whole objective is to just keep putting money in the bank, you literally are losing money, because the rate of inflation is higher than what you're going to be able to get as an interest rate in the bank. Remember when we went to B of A a couple months ago? We were opening a new account.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're just curious, like, if we're going to put our money somewhere, if we're going to let it sit for a little bit while we're waiting to put it into a real estate asset, we were thinking, do we move it there? So we were just curious.
What's the percent?
Yeah,
and they said
it was like
0.003% of 1%. I was like, God bless you. What did you just say?
Yeah, so it was like,
that's not an answer.
It was like 3% of 1%. It wasn't even 1%.
Yeah.
And we were just like,
so we left there reminded that cash is a depreciating asset.
It really is. That's what he means when he says savers are losers. And it's not that you shouldn't be putting money away. It's fine, put money away, but don't have that be your only strategy. You need to have some liquid capital. That's always a good idea, but you have to recognize, don't keep it in cash long term. At some point, you need to take out a chunk of that money and go put it into an asset.
Okay, if you're liking this video so far, click the like button. That one, yeah, thanks. Okay, I have a question for Stacy though. Like, what was the biggest mindset shift you had to make when you read this book 20 years ago?
Well, one thing I will tell you guys is that this book was literally, this was the beginning of everything for me personally. Because I was like, wait, what? The concepts were so different than what I had learned, and yet I could sense there was so much truth in it. But one of the biggest shifts for me was realizing me going to work every day, and I was proud of myself. I got my CPA license. I was a controller in corporate America. I was climbing the ladder trying to get to CFO. Like, I was doing all the things that society says, yes, that makes you successful.
Same.
Right. So I was like, I'm like, you know, break my arm, patting myself on the back then, right? And basically, one of the biggest mindset shifts for me was what he said is, look, you're going to work and that's great, but you're not making yourself, you're not taking care of yourself in the future. What you're doing is making your employer rich. And I was like, what? Instead, shift some of your spending activities to investing so that you can make yourself rich down the line while you're still using that job to just take care of your day-to-day expenses. That was the biggest shift for me.
It's kind of like that game, the cash flow game.
Oh yeah,
his game.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? I'm winning!
We're all on our own journey.
By the way, I was yesterday years old when I read this book. Okay, like I'd never read the book. So I didn't realize that.
But we live it.
We live it. And this guy's over here like broadcasting it to the world. And where have I been? Under a rock? Everybody knows Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. I had a rich dad, poor mom. Sorry, mom. But that gave me a contrast, right? To appreciate things kind of similar to the way he does. So I immediately connected with this book. But the cash flow game that he created from this book, it's got that rat race in the middle. And that's kind of what you're explaining is you're in the rat race at the job, making money, making ends meet. But if you don't start looking at assets, then you're never going to get out of that rat race and get on the fast track to retirement or enjoying life. But what about you? We want to hear from you. Have you read the book? I mean, have you played the game? So if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. If you haven't read it, do you want to go read it now? And I guarantee you're going to want to play this cash flow game. If you've already played it before, let us know though. I'm about to get really dramatic. I'm going to say some things right now from Robert's book that I agree with emphatically, and it's going to be like blow your mind, right? But I'm going to tell you, your house is not an asset. If you own a personal home, it's not an asset. Now, what if you own it straight out? What if you don't owe a mortgage on it?
Well,
right?
Yeah, because some people say, well, it's only a liability because I have debt on it.
That's not true. That's not true. The true definition of an asset is something that pays you, right? A liability is something that you pay for and it doesn't pay you back. The asset is when you purchase something and it's paying you. You're collecting revenue from it. So it's an investment, right? So I want to try and collect as many assets as I can that will produce cash flow that can pay for the things I need in life. So for example, my rent, my car, my cell phone, the electricity bill, whatever it is, every bill you got, you should have an asset that produces cash flow in it. And that's where you get the balance between having to keep going to work in order to earn the money to pay for the things that you have or you need to live. If I was going to buy the house that we live in right now, it's probably a, $1.5 million, $2 million house. The mortgage on it alone would probably be what we're paying for in rent. Now, I don't want to disclose how much we pay in rent because everybody would be like, what? And you'd probably lose your mind even more. But here's the deal. In order to live here, the rent that I pay, if I was paying that as a mortgage, I would have had to put money down. So what's 20% of a $2 million home?
A lot.
Right.
I could buy an apartment building.
I could put 200 grand down on an apartment instead, and then it's paying me to pay for the rent to live here. And that's where that's what we do. And that's what most people look at us and go, what the hell is wrong with you?
I think it's also confusing because, and I know for me having an accounting background, you know, a house on a balance sheet, it is an asset. The way that you book it, when you go to apply for a bank loan, it will be in their asset column. So it's difficult because all of society, not only are we messaged with, you should go to college, get the good job, buy the house, all the things. On top of it, everything else around us has our home being an asset. But the reality is, if you start to shift the way that you look at building wealth, you realize if it's not bringing in money, It's not an asset. How could we make it into an asset?
We could literally Airbnb it.
We could
Airbnb rent it
it.
out to people. There's ways that we can convert it into an asset. But do I have the time?
No.
The bandwidth or the energy to do that?
No, we're choosing not to turn it into an asset. We're choosing instead to sell it and then take the money to put into an asset that we enjoy, which is real estate. But I think it's good for you guys to think about, like, what are some of the things you're doing now that you could just make a small adjustment and turn it from a liability into an asset, because we could.
Totally.
We don't want to. We'd just rather sell it, but.
And we're trying to teach our kids the same concepts, right? So our oldest daughter just bought a fish tank, and all of her siblings.
Oh my God.
All of her siblings were like, well, I want a fish. And she turned and looked at them and said, I will let you rent my fish tank for your fish for $10 a week. And I was like, what? We're doing it right. Yeah. So it's different.
About that.
Yeah, it's
That's
different.
good.
But you can literally look at the things that you have and how can I make it an asset? How can I use it to make money and get creative, right? So, and that's one of the things that he talks about in the book too, is like, instead of saying I can't afford something, asking yourself, how can I afford it? Okay, his last one that we're gonna talk about is work to learn, don't work for money. What does that even mean?
When you're gonna go get a job, like, you gotta provide, you gotta take care of life. Like, we're not oblivious to that. In fact, we spend a lot of our life just doing that. But if you're gonna make a choice to go to work anyway, well, of course you are, right? You gotta provide, be strategic in where you're choosing to work. So his whole point of work to learn instead of work for money, yes, you're gonna get paid anyway, but go work in a way that's gonna teach you a skill that then you can use to build your wealth. So example of that. Back in 2009, like after the 2008 crash, I had to go back and get a job for a little while. It was torture. However, I sought out a job where I felt it would help to raise up my real estate skills. So I found a job as a CFO of a property management company. And I was like, okay, well, at least it's in real estate, because I freaking love real estate, right? And I ended up going and interviewing, and the owner of the company was this 82-year-old gazillionaire. Like, he showed me his financial statement. You know, I was going to, be a CFO, so it was like an accounting type of position. He was like, can you make this? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's like basic accounting, but I was like, is this really how much cash you have? It was so much. Like, he had so much real estate, and I immediately knew I had to do whatever it took to get that job, and it didn't matter how much it paid. I had to go be there so I could learn everything that I could from this guy, because clearly he knew something in 2009 that I did not know, because I was looking for a job and he was a gazillionaire. I hope that you guys have found this helpful. If you haven't heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'd be shocked. But if you haven't, or if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend getting a copy of it. They have it even on Audible, right? Because we were listening to it with the kids yesterday. And the cash flow game, it's expensive as far as games go. It's not cheap, but I'm telling you what, it's an investment in your education about building financial freedom for yourself and your life.
In fact, if you've been wanting to get into the game of multifamily investing, but you just don't know which step to take, first, second, third, whatever, you can click the link in the description below and we can help you with that. A member of our team will be able to get on a call with you, talk about your time, resources, your interests and goals, and then we can figure out which program is best for us to hold your hand and get you going.
Absolutely. And we also have a Facebook group called Multifamily Real Estate Investing. We'd love to see you there. We do a ton of free education, free content. We nurture the heck out of you to help you really take off in your real estate career. And every single week, Jen and I hop on a live Zoom that's for people in our Facebook group, where we will answer any question you have about real estate. So join us in the group. The link is in the description. We'd love to see you there. And let us just help you really take off.
And if you want to learn more from us, I want you to check out this video right here, how to buy your first rental property. It's an interview with one of our top students. Steve Caro went from 0 to 60 doors in less than a year. So check it out.
And it all started with just a duplex.
We'll see you next week.